Another caller. This caller from a 773 area code. Caller from a 773 area
That's
code.
Chicago.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Rodney Weatherspoon from Branch 11.
Rodney from Branch 11. What's on your mind?
Man, just this one, I've been a carrier for 11, coming up on 11 years. This is the first time I've ever been proud to be in the NALC. I'm happy about the members fighting back for ourselves. The post office has took a decline.
Well,
I'm
always glad to hear folks that are proud to be members of their unions. Rodney, is there anything else that you wanted to share?
No, not too much. Just happy our union still together and voted that terrible contract down.
All right, thanks for the call, Rodney. Appreciate it.
Me too, brother.
If you want to get where he was, you can give us a call, 844-899-8857. That is 844-899-TVLR. Caller from a 269 area code. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Michigan.
Hey, this is Brian. I'm a pretty new union member, so I don't even know the branch number that I'm a part of yet. But anyway, hey, just quick, two quick questions. One would be something I've been thinking about is with Mike and James Henry both running for 2026. I know this is kind of down the road, but what's Mike's opinion on of having two people running against Brian Renfro? Doesn't that kind of weaken our solidarity of getting him out? And feel free to explain that. And then also, just curious where Mike stands on getting all the carriers back to a single pay table. I think that should be probably the number one goal of the NALC is getting carriers back to table one pay. The second table basically creates another class of carrier. There's about $100,000 difference over the 13 to 15 years it takes you to get to top step, and I'm curious where Mike stands on that because I think that needs to be the number one. So I'll take the answer off the air. Thank you so much for everything you guys do. Bye.
Thanks, Brian. Mike, reactions?
Yeah. So there's currently in our contract, and it came in January 10th of 2013, where there's two tables, and so the people that started before that date are in table one, and the people after that date are in table two. And with this new contract, and really just with the passage of time, because you go up the pay chart and you get to the top, and it's not a two-tier system because when you get to the top step in table one and table two, it's exactly the same. So because time has elapsed since 2013, 99 or just a huge percent, everybody is pretty much, for all intents and purposes, in the same table. The problem is we were consolidated into table two and not table one. And table one was a much better table for us. A lot of the raises were front loaded. The starting pay was way higher. And it just, you got your raises up front, and then it was kind of the little raises were at the end. Whereas this contract, this table two, is completely prorated. So there's this long march all the way to the top that is, definitely in the interest of the Postal Service and not in our interest, because in the table two, in most places in the country, it takes like 10 years before you're making like a decent wage, like a decent middle class wage. Whereas before, you started off with a pretty decent pay already in table one, and 2-3 years later, you were good. You could go buy a house. You could, you were solidly in the middle class. So I do agree we should all be in the same pay table, but it should be table one, not table two. So that's one thing we're looking for out of this contract. The issue of the election in 2026, I'm going to leave that one alone, just because the election is not until the fall of 2026, and we'll see who the candidates are going to be at that time. I'm a candidate for president. I'm running my campaign, and we'll see what the members want to do. But I don't want to take away their right to, make the choice of the person that they want. It's not who I want. It's who the members want as their president. And also don't want President Renfro to win another term. So we do have both of these factors, and we're talking and trying to figure out what's going to be in the best interest of the members, with also making sure that the members are going to be picking and choosing who their candidate for president is, or who they want as their president of the union in 2026. But it's so far down the road, I don't have anything concrete for you on that right now.
We got one more caller on the line. This caller from a 508 area code. 508 area code. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm Greg. I'm a branch president of 334 outside of Boston. Mike, I organized my branch to overwhelmingly vote no, and I think most of my carriers did, or my members did. One of the concerns that we've been talking about is I've been calling it the orange card. There's a new president, seems to be attacking government workers. I know we weren't a part of the email that Shadow President Musk sent out the other day, but do you think Trump could ever play a factor in any of these negotiations, influencing the arbitrator? That's just one of my main concerns. I would still vote no anyways, but him being president now, not a union-friendly president, seems to be a concern among some people. I wonder if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, when they were negotiating the terms of this contract, Biden was the president, and, the terms suck. So I don't know. I know that the law, the Postal Reorganization Act, which sets forth the parameters for negotiations and collective bargaining and what the standards are, which is comparability to the wages and benefits of those in the private sector, that law is in effect. And, the arbitrators are beholden to the law. As a matter of fact, the Postal Service went in the last time they went to arbitration with the American Postal Workers Union. The Postal Service tried to argue that, their finances and they're broke or, whatever, that there should be some other consideration outside of that standard that's in the law. And the arbitrator shot him down. It was arbitrator Goldberg. And he's like, no, the statutory provisions are what I'm going to look at here, not outside factors. And I would consider who the president of the United States is to be an outside factor. It may come into play at some point, but one, I wouldn't run scared just because of it. And two, we don't know what that factor would be. So we just have to kind of fight our fight. And I think that means standing up for a good contract. And that's what we're going to do.
Appreciate the call and appreciate the sentiment on that, Mike. I completely agree. And just to add on your response to that question, probably the best single improvement that letter carriers saw as a craft came under President Nixon. Also, not a union-friendly kind of person. It came as a result of wildcat strikes, we all know, in 1970 and the big strikes across the country, and so there was a lot of pressure there to give letter carriers a good deal. But I think history is a teacher there. As far as what you can get even from non-friendly actors. Of course, Trump is a player here. I think it would be difficult to say that he's not, but that doesn't mean that he can't be brought to give letter carriers a good deal. Exactly how you do that is that's kind of up for discussion, and how much of a role he can play is kind of to be determined. But yeah, like Mike said, just because you have somebody that's not friendly in the White House doesn't mean that you can't get a good contract. So, Mike, we don't have any other callers on the line. I appreciate you staying and taking the calls. You didn't have to do that, and I'm sure that the folks who had their questions answered do as well. Appreciate you being generous with your time. Is there anything else that you want to say before we let you go?
Yeah, man. In closing, you brought up the strike of 1970, and I will say this: we got this march planned for Washington on March 23rd. And 55 years ago, letter carriers went out on strike on March the 17th in 1970. And so they were out on strike for 8 days. And when we march this year in Washington, we'll be marching at the same time that they were on strike 55 years ago. And with that same spirit of here's the kind of job and livelihood that we want. And this is not, it's not based on what somebody else thinks. It's based on what we think we deserve and the hard work that we put in on behalf of the American people. And we ask everyone, letter carriers and every other craft in the Postal Service and all the other unions and the American public to stand with us on that day. And I'm really looking forward to that 1.3 mile march from NELC headquarters to USPS headquarters, March 23rd.